Who am I? I've been working in esports and video games for 12 years now. I'm much older than that. I started many years ago in this technology. Those of us who are already 50 years old, more or less, I'm almost 50, not yet. We are lucky. We have lived through many cycles already. I remember when there were no video games. Then I remember the 1. Then I remember the 2 and the 3. In the 1, an anecdote, when 9/11 happened, I lived it in the forums. I saw it on TV. I stayed like that and quickly went to the forums to comment on the game. It was 1.0. When it was 2.0, I had a marketing agency that I started to tell companies there is something called Twitter. There is another one called Facebook. I'm talking about 2008, 2007, and maybe you should consider it. I'll help you. Well, imagine what that was like. Freaks. That's not worth anything, etc. And I saw clearly in first person, like many of you, surely that change from 1.0 to 2.0 and what we are seeing now with 3.0 reminds me a lot of that. Just in that year of 2008, I went to Sweden by chance. I went to a festival called DreamHack, which already had 9,000 people connected to a LAN party playing for 4 days. When I saw that, I was pretty shocked. But when I walked into an auditorium and saw a StarCraft competition, how many of you play StarCraft or know StarCraft? Okay, all of a sudden I saw a competition of 1,000 people, 1,000 kids sitting there looking at the screen, watching a game of StarCraft. And the tension and the energy and the vibe that was there, suddenly I got a rush all over. It had been a long time since I had seen something like that. The last time I had seen something like that was at a RAV in the Ruta del Bacalao. I'm Valencian. The Valencian Luminismo was the Ruta del Bacalao, right? And I said, man, this is like this. And what technology was in the Ruta del Bacalao? There was innovation. There was mescaline. Okay, what happens? That the regulation came and stopped. They said, man, we stop this or it gets out of hand. But everything we're telling here, everything we're saying about Web3 and such, this comes from the counterculture of the 60s. We know that. And then that's gone because of technology. I'll come back to that later. The thing is, I was in Sweden. It freaked me out so much that I said what the colleague said. How can I generate those experiences in people without getting thrown in jail, right? And I said, okay, I want to take this to Spain. I asked and I took it to Spain. I did the first event. We were 600 people. I have continued doing it all these years, and now we are 60,000. We did the first Twitch broadcast in Spanish in 2011, 2012, when Twitch was 40 people. We did the first event with YouTubers from Spain. I've known Gref, for example, since he was like that. So I have lived all that transition, where when something is new and is very niche and is very tribal, it costs a lot to reach the mainstream, and many things happen in the middle, that some are good, some are bad, and many lessons can be drawn. That's what I'm going to tell you today. That's my idea of today in Speedrun. Well, what do you think of when you think of esports? I made this presentation with AI, a tool called Beautiful AI that makes slides, and I told it to generate pictures of esports. And I got this one bad. It starts bad. Okay, this is a console game, but the next one is this one, a professional esports player. The professional esports player is a guy or girl who plays a lot of hours professionally, like a super vitaminized chess player, a bit like what Per was saying today. These guys spend 10 hours playing. Sometimes they sleep, and the rest are trying to go from one tournament to another. That is, they spend more time in a virtual dimension created by software than in the real world. I call them the first cybernauts, really. They are almost psychonauts, going back to the other thing. These guys, when you talk to them, they tell you they know the games better than their own house. They know the Counter-Strike map better than their home, because they spend more hours there than they do at home. And so yes, we understand that this is reaching a new mental dimension, and these are the first ones who are doing it. They've been doing it since the 1990s. Now we're talking about metaverse, etc. The metaverse, if we understand it this way, we can go to Counter-Strike, Quake, World of Warcraft, where there are already a lot of people playing a lot of hours. The next image he gave me is this one. This image is already of a professional video game team, so these are professional esport teams, and this is a broadcast, an esports event. Okay, here we already see that the production is outstanding. We already see that there are 2 teams. We already see that this guy here already becomes a star. We're already all watching this kid playing against others. Everybody has been telling me that my whole life. Hey, I can believe that people play video games, but how do you explain to me that there are people who watch others watching others play video games? You can't imagine how many times I've been asked that question on TV, in the media, in brands, in agencies. And in the end, I understood the comparison because I didn't understand how they understood it. I said, let's see, do you play tennis? Yes. Do you like to play tennis? And do you like to watch Nadal play tennis? Yes, that's it. It was that easy, but you can't imagine brands, agencies, media. I have mails to frame. That will never happen in life. Okay, this is the Intel Extreme Masters in Cologne, 18,000 people. Average ticket, 240 euro. This has happened in the last 10 years. It's been a pretty fun ride. Quite a curious one. This is a very strong milestone in our industry. This is an American team called Face Clan, which was on the cover of Sports Illustrated. But what happened 2 years ago with Face Clan that started to grow a lot, blah, 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 blah. We went public, and then we went to the stock market, and this is ESPN. Yesterday, I remembered this when you were saying yesterday how nice it is that NFTS collections go out in museums, that they put us in such a gallery in a museum. They put us a collection. This is the equivalent that ESPN talks about esports on the front page, or what we always said at the beginning. Can you imagine that in the Olympics we have esports? Now we're there. The Olympics calls us to the esports, and we say we don't want to go because we're already on another roll. But right after that, well, a little bit later, a few years later, we got to this. This is from this year. The streaming numbers for League of Legends, which is the most popular game, are dropping at 11%. Teams are tanking in the stock market, viewership is dropping, and investment is dropping. In other words, all the hype we have ended up in a critical moment. Why? And here comes my personal theory of where the game went wrong. Before the LAN, there was this. Okay, so there were the arcades, there was the Super Nintendo, the Atari, the PC games. I did all this, and I missed this because I was in the Ruta del Bacalao. Okay, but then I came back. Okay, but in the beginning was the LAN. The LAN was when there was no internet. We were setting up local area networks so we could connect and play. Okay, this is just pre-internet. This is the LAN of DreamHack. 9,000 people connected for 4 days with a nugget of connection to stay. It's kind of the equivalent of music festivals, but in digital. The connection, as I was saying before, the energy is the same, but the only thing there is Monster Red Bull. There's no alcohol, obviously no drugs. The drug is the technology, what connects what we call now metaverse. For me, is that connection that occurs between the digital and the physical, what is now called phygital. This is 96, so we've been around for a few years. You know, Grateful Dead. You know, that whole culture of all of that was exactly where we came from. This is the history of esports. From 72, that started with the first Space War tournament at Stanford. Who knows who Stuart Brand is? We're not that old. Stuart Brand is the founder of Whole Earth Catalog. He is the founder of the American counterculture of the 60s, 70s. Curiously, he is the one who makes the first competition at Stanford, and he is the one who begins to develop computer science and is connected to the whole evolution of Silicon Valley. In 97, Quake. In 99, Counter. Today is a very important day. Who knows? CS2 Counter-Strike is a game that is a mod. It's a game that used to be called Half-Life. Some hackers modify it, put together a game that is Counter-Strike, and it has become the most important cultural tool or cultural artifact of our time, more than Fortnite, more than any other game. In terms of duration, number of players, and number and loyalty of the community, it is a game that the community develops every day. Who knows what the meta is in a game? It is a game. It changes its rules because the players create it. This does not happen in sports. In sports, the rules come from above. Blah, blah, blah. Blah, blah, blah. Boom. Twitch. Twitch is born. 3 years old. Boom. Twitch buys it. Amazon buys it for $1 billion. It was 3 years old. Never seen before. Why? Because Amazon sees that these guys that nobody knows are sometimes, at times of the week, congregating 60% of the traffic in the United States. He says, man, here's something I don't get. Okay, from here it's all a little bit. I liken it to Facebook's Meta. Okay? From here it starts to get cloudy. COVID is a bit of good and bad stuff. And suddenly we reach 5 million concurrent viewers, and during this period we have moved on to the professionalization of esports. We talk a lot about the professionalization of niche sectors. For me, that word is anathema, because precisely the movements that are community, tribe, niche, if you professionalize them, you are going to lose a lot. You can do a lot of things, you can do a lot of business without professionalizing. Mistakes of professionalization. We took sports as a model. This is similar to sports. It is called esports. We are going to apply all the parameters of sports. We have to grow at full speed. Why? Because we have put in $1 billion and it has to come back fast. Brands have put in a lot of money. Investors have put in a lot of money. The media are betting. We have generated hype. We have to do whatever it takes to grow however we can. And then, this is also very important, we have gone from player to spectator. You have to create narratives. You have to create storylines, because from the parameters of external agents, that is much better than being a player. And at that moment, the industry, we lose control of the narrative, and the moment we lose control of the narrative, everything goes out of control. We've all been guilty. I don't put myself, we have all fallen into that. Little by little, as in Web3, you can also fall into it. What has happened? First, we have gone from players to spectators. Why? Because if we have all the gamers watching our content, we can sell media rights, which is the business model that during all this time has made soccer and these sports grow. You understand, don't you? So we are not so interested in their participation. We are interested in them watching, seeing. We have gone from creating to consuming. Why is that? Someone said it before. If we have the public or the target watching things passively, it is easier to put advertising on them. If they are doing things, they have a blind profile and they don't know about it. So we have to go from creators to consumers when before they were users or players. The third one, there are many. I have chosen 4. From community to target, we have all been guilty here. All of us, the organizers, the agencies, the brands. If we segment gamers by categories, it is easier to attack them than in the concept of community. And finally, from long tail to oligopoly. The gaming world is long tail, long tail. Okay, there are lots and lots of titles. The inventory is infinite. Fortnite represents a tiny percentage, no longer of the gaming world, but of the world of its genre. Okay, Fortnite. I don't know who you know. Do you know what genre it is? Battle Royale. Okay, there are 27,000 Battle Royals, and Fortnite is not even the first one. Okay? But if we concentrate everyone within a few, it's easier to do business with them and grow faster. And we kill something that in the video game world and in the Web3 and internet world is basic and very important, which is diversity, which is what makes it really unique. Okay, so what happens if we apply those frameworks that are all 20th century? It is not that they are Web 2 or Web 1, it is that they are 20th century. And I would say that it is the first half of the 20th century, because in the 60s, something happens, which we have commented before, that makes heads go boom. This is not about vertical, this is about horizontal. Let's go for it. And all this that I just said is, let's go vertical again, because that's what we know. And what happens when we do that? Well, we go to this, to winter. You get the idea? Okay, so what do we do now? And that's what we're asking ourselves in the industry. What is somebody in the industry or some industry player saying? Let's put money in, more money, more money, more money. Me at our event that we do. A year ago, we had $2 million in prize money in one weekend event. The next edition, we do 2 a year. The next edition had $150,000. It didn't show up in anything other than the headline. Sometimes throwing money at the problem doesn't solve it. Maybe sometimes it spoils it, so not this one. No, man, it doesn't either. I mean, you can do business taking into account all of the above. In fact, better business is done taking into account the above. My view and the view of a lot of people in the industry is to go back to the beginning. Go back to the land, back to the fundamentals. What is this about? Well, this is what this is about. Okay, and be careful. Customer-centric is already many years old. It did not invent anything. It applies everywhere. What do people want to do? What they do on the land, share, explore, discover, learn, create. And how do we take what we do on the land to the next level? Which is beyond events, beyond face-to-face. We are going from phygital, but to the other side, right? It has 2 directions. Then what are the keys? When we set up a land, the first thing we give them is security. We give them the autonomy to do whatever they want. We set up the framework and they come and do whatever they want. It is totally decentralized. We simply give them the space and we are one more in the game. Participation, diversity, and ownership. What does this sound like? This is what we were looking at yesterday. These are all the elements of Web3 that I insist do not invent anything. Okay, we bring them from before, but this is what we want to do in your digital environment. And this is the next cycle. It's the natural innovation of gaming and esports, which is Web3. And we have understood it, and we bring it from the face-to-face world. It's hard to say no digital, because all gaming is digital, but to the blockchain world, we have already done in Web3 gaming competitions. We have introduced crypto as a form of payment with little success, to be honest. Nobody has bought with crypto. And we are doing a lot of training and evangelization content. That's what we've done already. Investing a little bit and starting to see how it happens. What we're doing, we're tokenizing our user experience. What we do is the land, we want to do it in a digital environment. This is the most important thing. We want to do the partial decision-making transfer to the community. We are going to start partial. We know that if we release it all at once, it goes out of whack. Okay, so we have to do it partially and then transfer ownership to content partners. What does that mean? That content partners, both people who come to do music or other things and brands, we don't want them to come to sponsor. We don't want them to come to co-create. We don't want them to come to do that. We want them to come to have the same ownership shared with the user. Sometimes we have talked about it in previous sessions. We have done it a lot. In esports, I have seen it a lot. We put the brand with the startup or with the operator or whoever to co-create things that are good, but we forget the customer, the gamer in our case. So the idea is that the brand goes directly down to the bar or the LAN and is one more with the customer, and we are just there helping. And what do we want to do in the future? Total ownership transfer to the community. For me, from everything we are saying in this event, this is the taboo. The brands, this is already a guru, and I am probably wrong, but I believe that the brands and companies that survive this evolution are the ones that are going to share everything with their customers. This is not about marketing or communication. All that is dead, because now it is all about community. When the brand says, I share business with you, the customer, that goes. What is more powerful than that? I mean, if I know that every time I buy, I am buying a percentage of the benefits, how do you compete against that in marketing? You can't. That, to me, is the key. We haven't done it yet. We anticipate doing it in the next 4 years. It's not easy, but we think that's the key. Then, integration with publishers and partners on Web3 and expanding globally in a decentralized way. 0. This is a very big challenge. Gamers, as well as a large part of the young population, everything that sounds like NFT, token, etc., is no longer blind profile. It is Satan. So we have to do a very strong evangelization work. The industry is going very slowly. The industry is going very slowly, both our partnerships and the brands and so on. And underneath, the user is going full steam ahead. And the gap is getting stronger and stronger. And therefore, the effect, Mr. Burns, that we all know, that is increasingly difficult to avoid. Because it is going so fast. We are talking about making worlds in Fortnite. You cannot make worlds in Fortnite. If you do not play Fortnite, I have played many hours of Fortnite, but because I like it. But you can't be working without having played, without knowing the history of Fortnite, because you're going to get caught. So it's getting harder and harder to keep up with everything. So that's a big challenge for everybody. And this, personally, for us who are not technologists, is important as well. So here we are learning a lot. Thank you.
Congratulations.